Hello there! Welcome back to Charles Circle and welcome back to Captain of Industry. Last time, we reworked recycling across our entire base, standing up a centralized sorting facility and delivering sorted scrap to reprocessing facilities around St. Charles. Today, I think it's time to complete our transition to our new settlement model so we can clean up all of our old settlement infrastructure and ideally also get our new steel factory build in motion, if not completed. So, without further ado then, let's get into it. So, for today's to-dos, we want to finish the settlement transition finally so we can clean everything else up and get the steel factory in motion. And as you can see, I've started sketching out roughly what we want on the steel factory, or at least a copy of each of these modules, and it's going to be pretty doable. It won't be nearly the size or complexity of build as we had out on Silicon Ridge, so I'm not super worried about this, and I'll be keeping a very close eye on our steel levels, but I think we have some time before we have to really try to speed this up. So we'll come to this after we do the settlement transition, because I really want to put a bow on this. We are still maintaining a lot of parallel unnecessary infrastructure in our original farming setup, and all of this space will also be something we can take back as soon as we wrap this up. So I think we should clear up that loose end first. So what do we need to do to get our second settlement up? As you can see, I've taken the slightly updated / tweaked copy of the settlement that we built already out on St. Charles and have oriented around here with some tracks already. The issue here is not going to be really setting anything else particularly new up, right? We're going to have to think about logistics a little bit differently. Some of the stuff we did with the local manufacturing network from St. Charles, we'll have to think about, for example, well, that's not going to come out here and service the chlorine, and we'll have to figure out a different set of trains to get the household goods and appliances, so on and so forth. But for example, the entire farming setup is already basically sorted out, as is pretty much the rest of the waste. And the big issue here, really more than anything else, is going to be our water supply. So, how are we going to get water to this settlement? Well, it's a bit of a weakness of this location, but one that I'm willing to deal with. We have local water, obviously, out here on Silicon Ridge, and I think we might even have enough of it between these two reservoirs. This industrial water consumption can spin up pretty aggressively at times. Actually, the reason that this reservoir is at 50% right now is because we really had to churn through a ton of acid to make a ton of copper to catch up on a deficit in the previous episode. We're there and fine now, but it does spike like that. And then of course there's the constant consumption of water over here at our nuclear plant. Between these two reservoirs, it's fine. So I think it's not too big a deal for us to use the local water. The issue is, as always, if we want to run water up here, we have to figure out either a pipeline that navigates change in height, which we really hate aesthetically out here on St. Charles, or we could do what we did, for example, over here, and run water by rail. It's a little silly, it's a little inefficient, but it's much more aesthetic. So here's the thing. I think we're going to do that, and we might even mostly do it locally, but I kind of don't mind the idea of getting water on the rails a little bit more broadly, because we're going to actually have quite a bit of excess out here on St. Charles. This reservoir is going to be plenty for our local water over here. We're going to stop using these farms, which is a huge consumer of water over here. And this reservoir is always doing pretty well. It's only ever handling some steel over this way. And I think moving essentially half of our settlement population water demand and a huge chunk of our farming water demand off of St. Charles is going to give us an excess. So between that and the fact that we're rebalancing water out here, I figured, you know what, let's just make water a rail resource. It'll make things easier to rebalance. It's very silly. I generally try to pipeline water as much as possible, but we're across multiple islands here. And rather than trying to perfectly balance everything, island by island and adjust as we've already had to do and will probably continue to have to do, I think it's better to just put it onto rail. And or that's a decent enough rationale to back into justifying not making a weird pipeline going up these inclines. Because as always, this just looks rough trying to make your way up. You have to find weird little angles, and it just, I mean, that's not the best possible version I could make, but it's the best possible version is still rough. So we're gonna do that. I think we'll start by trying to make just a local station here, but like I said, I think we'll end up doing an export station over on St. Charles as well. We are past the point of having to do what makes meta sense in this playthrough, so we're gonna do what's most fun. So we'll need to connect up the rails out here, and of course we're going to need to also slot in then a water station here, basically in lieu of this pipeline, which is the sort of the version that's still left over from copy pasting over there. So I think what I'm going to do, just to start, we're not going to build any settlement buildings quite yet, but I'm going to hop in, add the water station drop off and storage, and then build, I guess, all of the sort of surrounding infrastructure. We'll have to connect via rail here as well. We'll try to keep this all electrified, not because every train coming out here is going to be, but if we do, it means that the local network will be able to use these stations just in case. Might as well. We certainly have the electronics. So I'm going to hop in and take care of that real quick. All right, well, we can let our trucks get to work on constructing all of this so far. The other thing we're going to need to do, as I mentioned, is set up a water station here on our local Silicon Ridge network, I suppose. So I think we can just make a little terminus station here that refills from this storage for now. Let's see. So thinking about just like how much we need, by the way, if we just want to gut check how ridiculous a concept this is. Out here, and this is a full settlement, that one won't be right away, but it will eventually be, so we should plan for that. We need 135 water. Now, that's gross. Net, we actually only need a quarter of that, right? So what we really need is about, call it 35, just to be safe. 35 is all of one of these. So we should be okay. We should be okay to run it like this, although there's going to be an initial drain from the buffer for sure. So I think we'll just set up, as I said, a station right here and link it to, well, no, we can't link it to the storage because that would mean that, well, we could just let it not be truck accessible. All right, sure, we'll link it. We'll link the storage. All right, let me go in and take care of that. All right, so this should work. We'll get our trucks to building this as well, and then of course we're gonna need to get this onto the Silicon Ridge network itself. Now we do have, I'm pretty sure, we do have one fluid train on this network already. We might need a second. Let's see, it really just runs hydrogen around though, so I'm kind of thinking it'll be all right to do double duty. At any rate, let's try before we assume we need to do more, but we'll add that to the network. And of course, this. So this is a good prompt actually to check in. What else do we need on here? Well, we're going to need to send the waste out, right? The sludge. And the same is going to be true with the biomass and the trash and everything. So our turbine trains are going to need both of these two stations, right? Since last episode, we have a unified turbine train network. And by the way, I think this network probably needs reinforced in a couple spots. I haven't seen enough idle loose good trains, this kind of train. And so I've got one more of these already lined up. Quite frankly, I think we probably should get a second one already into the queue. So I'm going to do that in the background, just FYI. And then what other stations do we need to work on out here? So the turbine train network, I think should already be able to bring out filter media from the junkyard, where it is also a usable, that station is already usable on this network. We are set on sludge for the same reasons. The trash and recycling should both already be on the turbine train network as well, if that is correct out here. Yep. And our sorting facility from last episode is similarly also good, already on the network. Oh, and in fact, we're on the Silicon Ridge network out here. So let's see if that ends up being a problem, that we have our smaller trains making those runs. We will make adjustments, but I think that'll be okay for now. The reason that is on the Silicon Ridge network already is for bringing out broken glass, right? So I think that should be okay. Other stations, right? This one over here, of course, is the one that'll handle all of our food imports. So we'll need to get this onto the turbine train network, similarly, again. And then the interesting question becomes, what do we do with all of these goods, which we deliver in small quantities out here via the local St. Charles manufacturing network, and apparently also confuse the hell out of our trucks for some reason. Whoops. So what we should probably do, we don't want to be sending the St. Charles local manufacturing network that far afield for many small trips. I think what we'd rather do is accept the inefficiency, because these are small storages, unfortunately, of our turbine train network running a little bit less than full on occasion to bring stuff out here. So I think that's going to be the move, unfortunately. So let's go ahead and at least try that. That'll be our first iteration. But I believe we already have access to those networks. Is that fair? Yep. Okay, great. So our household goods and appliances there will be accessible. How about our luxury goods, which we just put together? That's no, because this is a terminus station. And we don't have access for our turbine train network. Let's put a pin in that and come back to it. Because I don't see a quick and easy fix here, but it's luxury goods. It's not the end of the world just yet. A lot of traffic going on here, huh? I don't think anyone's stuck. I think this has just genuinely become a pretty high traffic spot, so we really should be thinking about some sort of high-speed bypass. Not something to fix right now, but something to start chewing on, I think, officially. Other than this, we should check on medical supplies from our medical supplies factory over here. Does this already have turbine train network? It does. So we have good access there. I think this is going to be sufficient then. I'm certain we missed something. Let's find out what it was along the way. While we're waiting for all of that construction, let's start to think ahead a little bit here about pulling back on this farming area. So mostly we've replaced all of the crops in here. We certainly have fruits, vegetables, and corn, along with soybeans. And the one thing we don't yet have is saplings. Now saplings, of course, we need to keep our forestry going, but we only use 1 out of 4 cycles over here, and the excess gets shredded into biomass. So we don't need a ton of this. It's also a flat good, and so I'm kind of thinking we should probably slot it in here. This is a set of farms that only outputs flat goods. Boy, does it ever have some extra capacity. Look at all this extra fruit and veggie, and we're actually even backed up on our overflow processing because we have too much fuel gas being produced. My God, let's go ahead and increase our storage there. Not that that really solves the problem, it just kicks it down the road. So we have the room, obviously, to slot in some of these saplings. So I'm going to do that here and just sort of dilute that out. That should already be more because it's 1/3 instead of 1/4. So that should already be more than we are producing back home already. Now, having done that, we're going to need to be able to sort that out, of course. So I suppose what we should do is slot in another sorter somewhere here. I guess right here is the only spot we really have much room for it. So let me do that real quick. So I think this works. We do still have a little bit of an overflow mechanism. I don't want to be shredding a lot of this. It's sort of an awkward thing for our trucks have to come out here and grab some rogue biomass, but a larger storage hopefully offsets that need. And this is where we plant trees. So this seems like a fine spot. I don't think we need to relocate it. I think they can just pull from there the entire time. And this can be another spot to place things, but let's not stress about keeping it full necessarily. If this gets full, then we'll push it out there. And in fact, maybe that's a good idea. If it does ever get full, please do push. So that should, I think, solve the one issue that we didn't already have sorted here. We don't have any of these other crops that isn't being produced anywhere else. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this out of the rotation here, and then we'll consider that sorted. So checking in on the balance of crops in general, this is getting a little bit better. We are, I would say, mostly producing what we need here. The question becomes, how are we on flour and such? Yeah, so we actually probably need to get more processing capacity up and running here now that we actually have the crops to keep these things busy. Yeah, so let's do that. I would say it's probably worth building, let's just double, oh, what the hell? I'm not coming back. We have certainly the workers and such for it. So I'm gonna flip these belts around, which was my previous way to keep us from accidentally, wasting a bit of goods out here just sitting idle. So this should get all of that turned into flour, hopefully in relatively short order. I've got my eye on canola. That's definitely the one where I'm least impressed by our supply, although flour is, not that far behind. We're doing just fine on sugar and sugarcane though. So let's keep an eye out here. I do, as we mentioned before, think we end up probably slotting in another farm, if not two. If that sand weren't in the way, I'd probably commit to doing it right away. But this all seems fine so far. Cool. How's our construction coming? As always, it's taken its sweet time. Maybe we use a little bit of Unity to help speed things along here. Man, I really dislike the thing to get these tracks constructed tiny bit by tiny bit. Sure, there are things I could be doing to make it go faster, but I'm not doing them. You know what, I'm looking at this now, we probably need to get a ramp in here. I don't know that we really need truck access into this area, but just thinking about construction, might be worth doing that. Can't hurt. Let me just grab one real quick. Did I just see that we are, actually, after my quip about totally having workers, short on workers? Imagine that. That's all right, we're about to fix that, and in my hubris of having so many workers, I even loaded the ship so we can unload said ship and buy ourselves time again. By the way, I started sketching out what our bridge is going to look like out here for our bauxite mine eventually. It's a doozy. In fact, we're going to gain elevation on a bridge for the first time because otherwise it's too low on this little outcrop here. So we would either have to kind of come further out, and I think we've spent enough time dumping rock out in here, or have to curve it and make it go out and around. So I think this works better. there's enough space here to turn the rail still, and out here to bend it in towards the mine itself. So I think this works. I'm not going to start building it yet. I want to be certain and actually have it, connect up out here before we do that. But this is what it's going to look like. And I think it's actually potentially the right moment to make a dedication too, because we have a new channel member who now deserves a new item named after them as well. So welcome to the future site of the Adski Bridge. Thank you, Adski, our newest channel member. And thank you to all of our channel members and supporters in their various forms. Without you, this doesn't happen, so I really appreciate it. How about that? That looks pretty good. And oh my gosh, I'm not even kidding, as I went to go double check to make sure that I had spelled names correctly, I got a notification that we have another new channel member. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. And so therefore, welcome to the very soon future site of Spencer Williamson Bridge. Really appreciate it. Thank you again, Spencer and Adski both, for your support, and to all of you who continue to support this channel. It's been really fun to see all the enthusiasm that has come along with it. So thank you again. Let's get this bridge built. Well, unfortunately, one of the reasons it's taking so long to get all this built out here is we have a ton of electronics on this island, but it turns out none of them are actually truck accessible, right? And we have lots of gravel accessible, but only on St. Charles, and mega vehicles can't cross the bridge, so we're only sending it out small chunk at a time. We could fix both of those things locally. It's not a huge deal, because how often do we build large segments of track out here anymore? We've done a lot of the building out here that we're gonna do, period. But we could do something with it, so I think we will. The simplest thing to do would be to make, I think, this box right here be accessible. So I can't, for example, we can't go out here because this is linked on both sides, right? So that flexibility is off the table. And then over here, similarly, we can't export because, again, this is linked to this set of train stations. But what we could do, it's a little awkward, I suppose, but this is the only train station over here where it's only linked on the export side. So we'll just make this accessible. Now, in order for that to actually matter, we have to get a crossing in here. So that's relatively straightforward, of course. Let's go ahead and just slap one right here, I suppose. And of course, it'll need to be large and electrified, but that's all quite doable. Start with instantly building the train track itself, the crossing, so that, our trains can continue to operate in this area, but that should make accessible some local electronics. The gravel is another relatively straightforward fix. We just should pull off from the rock output over here. This is intermittent. This depends on how our mine is currently looking, right? But we can, I think, pretty easily get ourselves a little gravel offset here. So I suppose what we would do would be maybe put it here, and we don't need it to be huge either, but we could say, well, let's go overflow, or perhaps actually primary and only export overflow, right? So we stick in a little balancer here and we say, please prioritize out this way. And then we'll get a crusher, a large crusher, doing some gravel work, right? Call it here, I suppose. Why not? Go ahead and extend that in here. And then of course we're gonna need to actually path over to the storage itself. And that looks a little rough, so we'll do it with some lifts. Well, this will take a minute, and we don't quite have the unity. We've been burning it all too fast on getting tracks built, but this should be helpful for us. And I think I'm just gonna, in the short term, flip this around because we have some stone out here. It'd be nice to quickly get it turned into gravel. So I'll click build on this as soon as we can from a Unity perspective, and hopefully that will, once we make accessible, give us a little bit of helpful gravel supply out here, not just now for this construction, but any other time we want to build a decent amount of rail. And a little while later, we have some building up on the line, because I actually never told us to say gravel instead of rock, but now this should finally be accessible. Very good. So I have to remember to flip this around so the mine doesn't jam back up, but ultimately I think this is going to get hoovered up pretty quick in building all of this out here. And maybe the next thing to prioritize is this set of crossings. That's a good chunk of unity, unfortunately. So I've been sending trains that are kind of stuck otherwise to like queue up out here until we do finish up these paths, because for example, our, what is this, household goods train, household appliances train was just chilling in that station because it tried to path out here and couldn't, obviously. So we need to avoid that being a longer term traffic issue. Of course, the other fun thing with that train, you saw it was running not full. That's partly a storage thing. It's also partly because we built this station with these little fellas in mind, not the big ones. And of course, so we hit our very favorite error, the forked path error. And so we're gonna need to extend this out this way. But here's the thing, we're gonna need to redo all of this once this farming setup gets cleared out anyway. So I think we're just going to rework all of this when we delete all of those farms, do it all at once, make it nice and clean, fingers crossed. So hopefully this helps speed along this process. Otherwise it's just a matter of time or unity, I guess. Unity to accelerate time. So I'm looking around here in the statistics tab of the train networks, trying to get an eye for what do we need to add more of. So where do we have essentially supply and then significant demand, but it's unmet, meaning that we probably aren't getting enough train throughput. So for example, we have a ton of dirt. We actually have like way too much dirt right now, but the issue is actually that we can't quite accept more of it. We're jammed up out here. We're pretty much at top on dirt. However, something like hydrogen, we could use another 2.5K in various storages, and plenty is available to be moved around, right? So here, maybe we could use another fluid train. Over here, this is more just we don't make enough, right? And that would be true over here with wheat as well. Over here, also, we demand more sour water than we can produce, but we do have a decent sized water supply and demand that's also kind of unmet. So I'm just sort of glancing through and looking at all of these overhangs. And ultimately, I think, I already have queued up one more loose good train. In addition, I think we probably should get a flatbed train looking at, for example, this one. There's also in our fruits and not quite vegetables, but that's another one where I think we could use one. I think I have a fluid train queued up. So just FYI, that's how in the background I've been deciding what to queue up over here. And we do keep generally adding a pretty decent number of these. So I want to not quite use that one. Let's get one more of this model onto the turbine train network. So those are all queued up, and unfortunately they take a good chunk of steel. And of course, what else? Steel is hurting. So maybe it's time that we take a peek over, at least, at the new steel factory, right? So how are we going to think about this? This is what I have sort of sketched out so far, and this is more just I'm putting the pieces on the table, right? Starting with overall, how are we going to bring stuff in and ship stuff out? So if we think about the overall process, right? We need iron ore, we need limestone, and we need coal all to go in. Those are all going to be mined locally. That was the whole point. We're also going to produce slag and some exhaust. And if we're going to produce exhaust, we should try to scrub it. That'll mean we need water and some more limestone. Great news. That's, again, locally sourced. And we're going to have to ship out some sulfur. Maybe also think about turning the CO2 into graphite rods. Recycling water we do on site, and then some slag. So overall, we're going to have to export slag, right? We're going to have to export sulfur. We are going to have to think about what we want to do with our landfill. So for example, I think we are going to keep shipping out the dirt just because it is particularly valuable on a per unit basis to turn into fuel gas. But the rock, I'm actually thinking we probably just sling into the ocean over here to give us a bit more space to work with. It's going to be high volume, a very long distance to go all the way out and around for just not that much fuel gas. So dirt I think is worth it, rock not. So let me change this actually to be a dirt export, and we will not do rock export. But the sulfur we are going to have to send out, and quite conveniently, we can just send it right across to Silicon Ridge where we use a ton of sulfur, right? It's a massive sulfur net importer because of the acid that we have to use out there for not just copper, but also nuclear and so on and so forth. So that should be an easy thing to shuffle just across the bridge there. We'll need to bring in hydrogen, as we already do, but just to be sort of complete. And I think we might actually ship water out from here as another way to sort of supplement the water supply across the bridge, because I don't think we're going to need all of this. This is a huge water deposit. 30K for what we actually need here. 30K is a ton. And tracing this all the way down, this is going to be one module, 8x. This requires 8 oxygen furnaces and 8 cooled casters, right? 48 out, 48 to 24, 24. So 8 times 12 here, 96 water is really the total water requirement for the entire steel thing working at top speed. We need a little bit more over here, net 12, because we'll recycle that. And I do think it actually is going to be more than one exhaust scrubber, but definitely not 2 full ones. So, ultimately we need something like 100-ish water, which is 2 of these groundwater pumps. And we can definitely support more than that from a reservoir of 30K. So I do think this is at least a possibility to be a net water exporter. And of course, the most important part is that we're going to send steel out of here in pretty high volumes. So we'll definitely launch that via a double station. I would imagine probably we'll supply it here, right? In addition to naturally also sending it on out to St. Charles. What we could even do is use this export network, which basically right now just runs things from here to here. And we could say, well, why don't you just run across the bridge there, come over and sling it over there too. Be nice and convenient. This is a different island, of course, but I think that would fit within the existing infrastructure. The only other thing I'd mention is we need some oxygen, of course, to supply the oxygen furnaces, but really that's it. It's not crazy complicated. We'll have 3 different mines, right, for each of our different goods. But other than that, I think it's going to be pretty straightforward. So those are the pieces on the table, and we'll, of course, need to get them arranged. But while I've been talking, I'm sure some things have broken. We've got train traffic is like balanced on a knife's edge here. So really enjoying that. Unfortunately, this guy's stuck now, right, because we still have issues getting all the way through here. Let's just move him forward, I guess, a little bit and just try to get these guys out of the main pathway here. Unfortunate, but necessary. So I'll try to bring him up too. I wish we were generating a bit more unity so that I could get these tracks completed, but I hope / also maybe think that our efforts with making, well, certainly not electronics quite yet, but very soon, hopefully at least on the gravel side. Yeah, it does seem like we've been doing a bit on this front. So let's go ahead and flip this back around. That's no longer necessary. Good to get to it while we're thinking about it. We will still say priority out here only when the gravel is totally full. Will we say, all right, fine, please do get rid of the rock. What else is going on up here? Some fueling issues. I think everyone's just trying to get to an awkwardly placed hydrogen supply. This is starting to turn into an issue. As we get really jammed up here, and we have large mining vehicles, it's like kind of difficult to actually have them navigate around. Yeah, exactly. This has gotten pinched here. This wall, I suppose, was not entirely necessary. So this is an easy fix. It just does need fixed. We should probably similarly have just a single chunk of a hydrogen refuel out. I don't know. Here seems good, I suppose. Why not, right? So come on out and, my goodness, refuel here. These are, I don't know, I don't want to be dotting our landscape with random manually refilled refuel stations, but it's a quick fix at least. These are, yeah, similarly also just waiting on somewhere to actually fit. So come on out this way, at least get out of the way of the station. And yay, a tiny bit more unity. We can slowly creep these trains forward a bit further. That out here, yeah, let's go ahead and do that corner, and then beautiful. Wow, that's great. We'll at least get some folks out and around. I suppose the return path will also be pretty important here. So actually, you know what I'm going to do? This is an investment to be able to build all of it faster. Go ahead and get our electronics more accessible to our various trucks. Slowly but surely, we're getting there. And slowly but surely, we're bringing folks around, and we just need to finish the return tracks so that they can actually complete their loops. Of course, the various storages not being complete means that we aren't going to be filling up or actually, properly pulling a full train into all of this, but at least these trains will return back to circulation, because that's going to be a problem if they don't. At any rate, maybe one of the things we can do while we're waiting for that all to run through the system is run through the actual modules themselves and try to complete them, because right now they're just buildings. The way that I'm thinking about doing this episode is a little bit different. I normally come in with like a fully complete, already sketched out blueprint, and I like doing that sometimes, especially for larger builds where running through all of it all the time would be like just too much. But I do think that, it tends to gloss over some of the design thinking and process, and it's kind of fun to see it come all the way along too. So because this is more manageable, I think I'm going to try to do this stepwise, but I don't want to disappear into like a 20-minute time lapse with no interruption. So what I'm going to do is I think just go one module at a time, run through the accoutrement for each of them and get them set up, and then, check in between them, and then run the orientation part, like just figure out where we're going to place them all and lock it all in, but go sort of stepwise instead of being a whole big thing all at once. So what I'm going to do just to start is to get all of our belts and pipes hooked up on the blast furnace module for turning crushed ore into molten iron. So I'll dive in here and get that all sorted out. So nothing too fancy here. I'm using tier 3 belts all the way through, not because we need it for the throughput, although for the crushed iron we absolutely do, but because, well, we can afford it, it's simpler, and it does make the entire process a bit more responsive. So when we need to spin things up real quick and then, oh no, we had a coal disruption, well, it'll catch up a lot faster this way. These belts that are larger themselves and they hold a larger internal storage buffer as a result, that sort of thing. And similarly out here, I do draw the line a little bit on going up to pipe 4s because these cost, 3s cost just construction parts 3, right? But if you go up to 4s, then you're also spending steel, and we don't have that right yet. So what I'm generally thinking is that the mine stuff is going to happen down here, which isn't where the center of gravity for the ore is necessarily, but I do think is probably simpler for also running, say, the dirt out here and the rock over here. And we can definitely start the mines here and here for our closer to, so it's really just the coal going a little bit further this way. So I think that's the play. And the only other thing that I haven't yet done is the actual iron, molten iron outputs. So the fun thing about molten outputs, right, is that these have a throughput of 120, and this is true at the very start of the game and at the very end of the game. There is no upgrade to this. So what that means is basically we can combine the output of 2 of these, not if we want to boost them, right? But we can only do essentially 1 of these if we ever want to boost it per output. This module is not really set up to be boostable for the same reason, right, that we run into the throughput issues over here and need a second belt in and all of this awkward nonsense, right? The problem here is just that 48 into a 450 belt, right, is like 9-ish, I think. Yeah, 9, 3, 8. So we're not going to be able to double an 8, but I don't want to set up something smaller just because we might boost it. So the ability to boost falls off the larger you get. It costs more and more Unity too, so it's not something we really want to do. At any rate, what that will mean though is that we should probably merge up 2 of these per, so we'll come out with 4 molten iron channels, I would imagine, and then run them off to wherever these are. Other thing we could do, right, would just be to orient them like this and set them up right here, and then just go connect directly. Then boosting isn't an issue so much, even though we still can't do it so much for other reasons. And the other maybe argument for this would be that we could get our exhaust to also line up here as well. So these actually will need a bit of space in between them, as they're currently drawn up. They don't have that, but we can and probably will have to set that up accordingly. So we'll come in and do that next, but let's check in on the base and see if anything else exploded in the meanwhile. Yeah, a little while later, I think we are more or less ready to go out here. Of course, we can still develop further some buffers. We definitely don't have much in the way of food. Hardly anything at all, frankly. But we do need some workers. So I think what we might do is say, well, let's get the first one started at least. It'll take a second to build anyway. And in the time that it takes for our trucks to get to that, hopefully we'll drop off things like, I don't know, a big pile of potatoes and so on. So let that start, and then that will mean sooner rather than later we can start cleaning a lot of this stuff up too. Pretty exciting stuff. I think we might even start with, I've got some rogue belts here from missed cleanup last time, so why not give ourselves a bit of an advance on the dopamine hit of cleaning everything up. That's probably not going to be necessary. Let's do all that. Why not? But other than that, not going to get too far ahead of ourselves here. How are things holding up on our other settlement? Is our train network able to handle all of this at the same time? It seems that way. I know we've had a blip or 2 here on the wastewater, but it seems like we're doing okay so far here. I've put everything up on priority 1 for essentially keeping the water all sorted, making sure that we have our filter media, our chlorine, and our sludge out. It's not the end of the world if we drop a bit of food here or there, anything else like that, but this is more significant on the Unity and even health fronts to have good clean water in there, so we'll prioritize that. And I think our chlorine supply is sufficient. Nope, there it is. I've been waiting for that to happen. I've been kind of surprised it hasn't yet, because we don't really make a ton of this. I think we've pretty much paused this. I mean, not literally, right? But just because we've siphoned off everything for chlorine and there's been space for it, we basically aren't using this salt generation at all anymore. And I think I'm okay with that. We obviously don't need it so much, but maybe what we do, I mean, do we want to, essentially, if we wanted to increase this, you know, just for the sake of generating more brine, we would have to be dumping water. And so we could put that into a train station, as we've mentioned. That is a thing we're probably going to start doing more generally anyway. Or we could think about other spots that we can generate this chlorine. So of course we do currently process some of it over here, but we don't really care to do that, I think, going forward. We really only do that to supply this one. So I'm not sure that that's necessarily the move either. What could be the move would be out here. We have some relatively underutilized seawater pumps, and this is working gangbusters when we need it to, but we don't always need it to. So what we could do is have some overflow turning into chlorine processing, I don't know, some station right across the street here or something. So I think we're okay for a minute. We still have enough out here, and I think that's why that fell off so hard, but we will probably have to reinforce and codify that, because this is not going to bounce all the way back, I don't think. Something to keep an eye on. So would you believe it, our steel is actually bottlenecked by water right now. And that's because we disconnected our 2 water mains last time, and this has not been able to absorb the surge. So I've just added 2 more. I don't think that's gonna quite do it. I don't think, so I'm gonna have to reconnect things after all out here. Not gonna be too big a deal to do. I'll probably just run a tier 3 pipe off the edge here, because still, despite serving this entire settlement, this has really come all the way back. So I don't know, maybe I'll just run it down along this seam here. I suppose we could pull it off of this spot here for the concrete network as well. But I think, yeah, I think simpler is going to be better here. Just going to grab a chunk here. Tier 3 is fine. Tier 3 is fine. And I'll run it all the way the length out there. Probably have to slot a couple ramps in along the way, but let's get that done. Alright, tried to run it as tidily as I could. I'm sure it'll get reworked when we rework this area as these mines run out. But right now, basically the idea is, well, let's put it into the balancer. And the balancer here, of course, we still want to prioritize our recycled water. But other than that, we're instead just going to entirely backfill it from that new main. And this, I think we're just going to delete longer run, but there's a non-zero chance that even without the steel factory sucking up all the water from this reservoir, that, say, the bakery and the tofu factory and everything needs a little bit of extra water. So in that case, we would simply flip this pipe, unpause it, send it back around, maintaining the connection. After all, completely disconnecting the 2 parts of the main is what got us into that, well, jam oversells it, but that situation in the first place. So hopefully the reinforcement on this side, which already is working because we've dropped 5-10%, but between that reinforcement and then this reallocation, we hopefully should have more consistent steel. And meanwhile, let's see, because we have the input, right? We have tons of recycled and ore, so assuming sufficient water, we should be able to boost our way through this real quick. In fact, let's Unity boost our way through building it and see if this doesn't get things back up to speed. And there we go, back in motion, about time. And here we go. Perfect. Well, it's time for the next one immediately, right? Because we can start transitioning, but grab the 10 workers that we wanted to backfill with here, because we're going to add some workers as part of this process. Not everyone, not everywhere, but we were hurting. It'd be nice not to anymore. Oh look, I copied over this little oversight. Go ahead and fix that real quick. But yeah, it's good to see. I think we are everything but luxury goods, right? This is the one piece that we didn't solve yet. We just don't have a loop at that station, so we don't have a way for our turbine train network to get out there. Otherwise, though, it looks like our various bits of food are more or less here. A couple still need to be pulled in. No sausages yet, it seems. That looks like a whole bunch of cake, though, huh? Oh, yeah. So much cake. Cool. So it's good that we are starting to move people over here. They won't be getting 100% of their Unity right away until we get these last few categories in, but I'm not too worried about it. It seems like it's chugging along. And I even think our train throughput is okay. I would consider adding another flatbed train, but hey, would you look, this is exactly what we are still working on out here. Hopefully the improved steel throughput should get us that, among a million other things that are currently requiring steel, in shorter order here. Is this an exhaust issue? I thought I saw it blip for just a second. Is this running at 100% pretty close? Yeah, okay, time to boost him as well. So with that happening, and the tiny bit of surplus Unity that we have going on here again, it looks like everything else is running smoothly. I do think I'm gonna try to boost this middle third as well, and hopefully that works well for us. Let's see. It's really hard to get this whole thing going at top speed, doubled up all the way through, but we're doing okay so far, actually. Cool. Well, let's see. How is this going? Already not too bad. Don't quite have the Unity. Let's go ahead and crank up the urgency here. Why not? We'll start here, and then I even think we'll do this at a slightly lower priority just to keep things moving. And the moment that these are done, we just keep working our way around here, and then we can start to pause over here, which I'm pretty excited about. We've already paused all the way to here, so we have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that need to be done out there. Call it a 7th for the net new one that we wanted, which means all but one of these. If we can get all but one of these built, then we'll be set, really. And at that point, I don't know, maybe we do try to build all of them. We wouldn't quite need the workers yet, but it would be nice to know that this is functional at top speed and we'll use the workers. So I don't know, let's see. Actually, you know what? No, we definitely won't use the workers because we're gonna, as part of cleaning all this up, we're gonna delete a whole bunch of workers who won't be necessary anymore. Not delete the workers, geez, that sounds awful. We're gonna delete their job sites, which means we'll be able to reallocate a ton of workers anyway, right? Each of these farms is 20, so, you know, that's 100 some already. This is probably another couple hundred. So we will probably not need to worry too much about worker supply. All right, so maybe we'll go all but one over here. So there's that. And that does mean, right, you can knock the 400 excess housing off there. Probably time to get another one in motion. This one, knock down to priority 2. All right, we've got a lot more of our dirt pushed back here. I guess keep going, right? Might as well. We'll need it eventually anyway. So we'll push back a bit further. It's probably not quite time to start with the mining out here yet, but that is a pretty good start. Seems like we're finally getting trains out here on enough of a regular basis to clear that dirt out. Very good to see. Once that's more or less flat, doesn't have to be perfect. This isn't going to be a golf course. But once it's flat enough to build on, we reallocate these into being the first set of miners. So hopefully we'll get that built in relatively short order as well. And actually, we've accidentally mined our first bit of titanium ore, which is kind of fun. We need to have somewhere to sort it, so we'll put it here for now. That will also require, and I think finally, now that we've excavated some, we can put it explicitly into this sorter, but it'll require us to be able to sort that here. Titanium is sprinkled into this iron mine, and I don't know that that's robust enough to be our primary source of it, but we're gonna need it for space stuff in a moment anyway, so we will be happy we have at least some of it. We definitely have other deposits, but they're pretty far. If I remember correctly, the only one that I remember off the top of my head, okay, this little island, but I think there was one, yeah, down in this crater as well. This might be an island worth going to eventually. I think this is probably the next one we get onto. So if I try to clean up the UI here a little bit, I think we end up over here next. So it's a very simple, straightforward bridge, basically. This is the same level, I think. Is that right? Across here. If not, it's like this and this. Everything's on 20 or 40, basically. And there's a lot of good stuff out here. So copper, of course, as our mine over there runs out, although we have plenty still on St. Charles. There is a water deposit. There's a whole pile of gold up there. A splash of some steel-making stuff, but here, this is really what I have my eye on. This is a pretty significant normal oil patch, so I wouldn't be shocked if we end up tapping that as a way to bail ourselves out when inevitably these ocean deposits, which have gotten lower, by the way, 25%, 50%, 97%, right? So we're fine. But this will go eventually, you know? So we will, I think, have to be thoughtful about how we make that transition. I am still also slowly but surely creating the ability to run a cute little overwater pipeline over to this island. And as a reminder, this has just a ton on it. So that'll be the other way that we end up creating a bit more breathing room for ourselves. Cool. This is coming along. Might even say, get this one going. Again, dropping it down another priority. But that means we have the ability to pause another one out here. So let's do that. We're getting close. Got what, 4 more? Cool. Looking forward to being able to delete a whole bunch of stuff there, huh? Yeah, a little while later, this is working just fine. 100% all the way through here. And could, if we wanted to spend the Unity, probably even go all the way through here as well. I don't know that we want to do that necessarily. I think we start to be bottlenecked with our ability to actually ship it out to the places we need it. This will turn into, obviously, truck accessible steel storage, but eventually that caps and we just need our poor little trains to actually get out here and take care of getting it shipped out to our various factories. So I think we let that go as it is. 7.3K is something like twice what we were at when I said, hey, by the way, we should fix our water. So it does seem that fixing our water was a good idea. Things are continuing apace out here. Where are we? There we are. I think we might even, yep, let's speed that one up with some Unity. I don't know if that means, yeah, we can't quite do that one, but let's get this going as well. And that means we can pause another over here. Just a couple left. And then we can delete all of this, all of it. Exciting. All right, let's help it out a little bit more here. That means we can probably unpause another one and come on over here and pause one of these as soon as that hits 465. Come on, there it is. Let's go. 2 more. 2 more. With this, we have the arrival of some vegetables. So we're just missing fruits and sausages, and could definitely use a refill on eggs. But otherwise, the food side of things is really filling up over here. Water's holding up. And everything else seems to be going smoothly. That's 1 more done. Let's just go ahead and finish that one in its entirety, which should mean that we can pause both of these. That one is just overshot, right? We didn't need those last 2 folks, unfortunately. So when this finishes up, we'll pause and then again be 2 over. But once this finishes, we'll be okay. All right. So I think that's going to be the move here. When this finishes, we can start deleting all of this because that'll be our last one over here. All right. So with that done, and this, let's just say the most urgent thing in the base, I think, pausing here. Let's double check before I get too excited, but these are all paused. We are completely done with this settlement. Yeah. So it's time to start deleting stuff. Get excited. So let's just start with all of the settlements themselves, I suppose. Or maybe still has service buildings. All right, cool. I've never like demoed an entire settlement like this before. So I guess what we do is start around the outside and clean everything up here. Then we'll come in and do the actual settlements themselves. So that means all of this can go, and all of this. Yeah, I would say even all the way through here, right? All of this can go. We don't need any of this anymore. All of it, really. Yeah. Brilliant. This is such a great, like, I don't know, not quite do-over, but ability to revamp all of this space usage. So we'll have to figure out, this is now a bit awkwardly placed. Frankly, it was always a bit awkwardly placed, but I've an idea in the longer run in mind that we just don't have access to yet. I suppose I'll need an interim home. At any rate, let's clear all this out and then come back and do another pass of removing the settlements themselves. Look how many workers that freed up. Good lord. There is, I'm not sure I'm going to use it, but there's an edict, by the way, where you can just clear folks out 4% every month. And I don't think we want to do that necessarily, but this is now a ton of extra workers. And oh, by the way, yeah, we can do the farms too. So there's another 120. And we can do all of this as well. So that's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty satisfying. And we have, I think, not broken anything. Let's find out. Let's find out. But there's a lot more still to pull down here. We've got some extra water pipes that'll drain out in a moment. This means that we don't need so many silly ramps and everything. And finally, we don't have, well, we still got that pipe, I suppose, but we don't have these weird little crossovers anymore. And yeah, just feeling really good about our ability to clear all of this out. Well, what I am going to do, I don't want to pause one of these, but we have plenty of workers. That's more than enough. What I am going to do is at least do the disables natural pop growth edict rather than clearing people out. I think we'll at least stop adding new ones. And the other thing that's happened while we're waiting for all this to deconstruct, the other thing that's happened is by building this bridge finally, I think we've choked off the ability of our mega vehicles to get down here, which actually takes me to what I wanted to do to revamp the rail here anyway. This is tight and awkward, and I don't think we need rail coming up both of these. What I think we're going to do is straighten this connection out, put a crossing in here so that trucks can come down this side, clear out this path, and then instead have it connect up out here. I think we might have to move this over a little bit in order to make that curve work, but I don't mind doing that. I think we can swing that. So I'm gonna start connecting some rails here. All right, well, we've broken everything until we have the Unity to finish all of this, frankly, unfortunately, including the bridge. So hopefully we don't regret that too hard, but let's come back to it in a moment. How are we doing on deconstructing over here? Still plenty left to do. Well, yeah, this was a little unnecessary and self-inflicted, but I've jammed up our entire train network until we are able to finish this bridge and interchange. Our trains aren't able to go out and do all the things that we need them to do past this point right now. But I've messed around with some Unity. We're giving everyone extra food to try to get them to help us power through this difficult period. And hey, that's good. Getting one train unstuck at least. So what we need to do is get this pass-through functional, but we still can't really complete the loop again until the bridge itself is complete. So I'm just gonna keep chipping away here. Part of what's going on, which is actually quite funny, is there's not really anywhere to put these extra rail parts because we don't have any empty rail parts storage, so our trucks are not prioritizing deconstructing here. I would like them to get these two segments sorted quickly though, because I do want to get some ability for trucks to come through here. We can't really do that until this is gone, so let's do that now quickly. Perfect. All right, well, I think our vehicle path is at least functional again, and the mine's going again. Good, because goodness, we were gonna run out of iron ore. That had really actually trickled all the way through here to the level of the steel factory. Everything comes off. The wheels all come off together if you're not careful. So let's get ourselves across the finish line here real quick. All right, and finally, with this last segment constructed, I think our trains should be able to get back to business as usual. No attention to the maintenance crisis behind the curtain. We're fine. Everything's good. And now, Spencer Williamson Bridge is open, and it looks really cool. I'm really glad we've built this. This was probably not the best way to do it, but I'm glad that we built this because it looks really neat to have this sort of mine running underneath here. I like the look of it. And this is now a bit of an out and around. I mean, of course, it would be ideal, I suppose, if we could run both train and truck up this, but I think it's just fine to go this way. So cool. This is neat. And these are not crossings, are they? Son of a... I've done that a few times before. Let's fix that before I forget about it. There we go. But yeah, so I think this is functional and give our base a moment to shake itself out of the funk I probably just put us in with train traffic. But otherwise, this looks like it's holding up just fine. A little low on veggies, but hopefully some are coming. We did choke out the ability to ship them in for a moment. Tofu, eggs, sausage is a little bit low, but those are, again, all things that hopefully we've just created a bit more space for. Chlorine remains something I think we'll have to solve at a higher scale in the future here. But otherwise, I think, yeah, look at this. We can start to clear out the settlement itself here as well. Why does it need to remain contiguous? I'm trying to delete it all. There's nothing else to worry about. Do I really have to go one at a time? That's so annoying. But that's all right. It's all coming down. As you can see, this is all very shortly going to be pretty wide open space. This is now an unnecessary ramp. That's unnecessary salt. I should probably get my edicts back together here, but I'm enjoying having the Unity. I'll show you in just a moment how much I've sold out on the edict front. Completely removed basically everything that we were doing before. The chlorine I do want to make sure we actually properly use. So let's say maybe a truck can come drop off here. That would be good. So now we can hopefully chip that away. With this one gone, hopefully that can go soon. Just a moment. Bam. And that should get this chlorine out too. Very good. Very good. On the farming front, yeah, this is all also pretty cleared out. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these pipes. That one too, I suppose. We'll figure out how to rewire this in a better way in the future, probably the next episode or 3. but I just wanted to get it all cleaned up at this point, which is pretty satisfying. So this is all looking pretty good. Pretty good. Very exciting. And yeah, all of this can go too, huh? I think we probably have tried some of it already. Cool. So down to our last couple settlements here, using Unity to clean a lot of this stuff up. Just wanted to show you, I guess. I sold out on everything but trucks because we were constructing. I think it's time to put these back up. This is roughly where I've been as far as what we spend, I would say. The fuel consumption one just really accelerates. You go from 1 Unity for 15% to 2 more Unity for 10% more, so that's rough. Maintenance, this one similarly, it's another Unity for 5% more. I still tend to do it, although it's one of the first ones I drop back down. And then over here, I've been kind of running at 1. I try not to mess this too much because it changes your entire water balance, and that's kind of a lot. Max out recycling, max out overloaded trucks, and I'm going to stop providing way too much of all of our other goods. Cool. So with this, hopefully, done in a moment, and yeah, I think we can, I suppose we could rip up all of this concrete too, just for the better visual, right? Let's do that. Well, it wasn't critical. We may end up repaving a pretty good amount of it, but I just wanted the visual, huh? Looking good, looking real good. And then up here, yeah, probably use some Unity to clear out the rest of this here too. And yeah, that's looking pretty good too. So we definitely need to rework this. I'm not going to do this right now, but we want this highway path to continue here and meet in properly at a T there, rather than us sort of forcing this awkward through in this area where we have a bunch of stations already. So that is very much the plan. I'm not going to do it now. We probably also need to fix this water connection, but again, not going to do it now. I've definitely gone a little bit long already, but wanted to be able to show off this view, essentially. I mean, come on, how good is that? So we have officially completed our settlement transition. We are able to use this space now. We officially have everything supplied by rail. We just freed up like almost 1,000 extra workers that we can use to fuel our space race ambitions here in the coming episodes. We started sketching out the steel factory. We definitely need to get that a little bit further advanced next time. Got caught up in all of this work, but it was work well worth doing, I think, personally. I hope that you agree with me. And yeah, so in the next one, it's probably steel across the finish line, and we might even be ready to start talking aluminum. So if that has you as excited as it has me, make sure to stop by again for the next one. But until then, have a great rest of your day, and bye-bye.